Hi, I'm Allie and welcome back to Haven's Kitchen. Today I'm making chimmy cheesy stuffed baked potatoes. I love this recipe because first off, it teaches you how to make the perfect baked potato. It's an hour in the oven, like 40 seconds of active work, and you end up with that like crispy crust and that like really tender inside potatoey yumminess. I also love it because this happens to be one of the very few recipes that all 5 of my children love, and they've loved their whole lives. Third reason I love it is now that they make like cauliflower rice and broccoli rice and we have our chimichurri, it actually comes together literally in 5 minutes. So it's a super, super easy family pleaser meal. If this recipe sounds like something you'd like to try, be sure to subscribe to see all of our future cooking videos. All right, let's get started. All you're really gonna need for this recipe is a baking sheet lined with a rack. Again, what a rack does is make sure that you're not steaming the bottom of the potatoes, that there's enough air circulating under the bottom where that gets equally as crispy to the top. You can use a potato masher. Honestly, I didn't use one for like the first 25 years of making this recipe, but it is kind of fun, like especially if you're feeding a group of people and you just have some yayas you need to get out. For this recipe, we're not gonna need a lot. We're gonna need our chimichurri, which is basically gonna give all of the flavor to the potatoes, loaded with oregano and parsley, a little garlic, a little red pepper flake, and a little caper. It's gonna imbue the potato mixture with lots of herby flavor without you having to do a lot of spices. We're also gonna obviously be using baking potatoes. We're using some broccoli rice, which you can make on your own, but most stores at this point have it, and it takes all of the work out. Some cauliflower rice, similar, and we're gonna be using shredded cheese. Even though this recipe is like an hour-long recipe, there's only about 5 minutes of active work because basically we're gonna rub our potatoes with olive oil, stab them a few times carefully with a knife, put them in a 500-degree oven for exactly an hour. If your oven doesn't go up to 500 and stops at like 450, that's fine too. Just probably give it another 10 minutes or so. So you're just gonna make a couple of stabs, like not too aggressively, but just to let some of the air out. I don't know if potatoes really do explode, but on the off chance that they do, we don't want that happening. And obviously we're gonna stab them a little bit first before we rub them all over with olive oil, because we don't want our hands slippery holding a sharp knife. So I think the olive oil really is the key to the crispy skin, as is a super, super hot oven. Crispy skin is what I'm going for here. Okay, we're gonna put these in the oven, but before we do, we're just gonna sprinkle on a little salt, like a salty, crispy potato skin that's like stuffed with things, like covered with cheese. I'm gonna put these into the oven for exactly an hour, and with about 5 minutes to go, that's when I'll saute my vegetables with the chimichurri. So it's been an hour. I'm gonna take the potatoes out. I've sauteed my broccoli and cauliflower, and now I'm gonna scoop the potatoes and mix it all together. So my skins are nice and crispy, and they should be totally fully cooked. They are gonna be hot potatoes, so you might wanna just be careful handling them. But basically, we're gonna cut them in half and kind of pry them open. Then we're gonna use a spoon to scoop out the insides of the potato and mix it with the veggies. I first started making these when I was pregnant with my first daughter. For some reason, my entire 9 months, I was craving stuffed, like cheesy baked potatoes. And I would just load them with as many vegetables as I could and like as much cheese as I could. And then it just continued. And then when, they started making broccoli rice and cauliflower rice, it took a lot of the work out of it. And then the addition of our chimichurri took like all of the work out of it. So it's really a 5-minute meal, give or take an hour. So now I'm just going to add in my veggies into the potato. Again, if you don't have a smasher, that's fine. Just use a wooden spoon. I'm going to smash. Get it all mashed up together. You can add a little more chimichurri right now if you want to, if you really love tons of herbs, but I can smell all of the herbs and it smells delicious. Perfect. Now I'm just going to restuff the potatoes. And you can pack these up pretty high. You can also add other veggies if you want to. You could add zucchini. You could add red peppers if you want. You just want to make sure that the cooking times kind of line up. So if you are doing zucchini, cut them pretty small so that they can cook with the broccoli and the cauliflower. I've also lined my sheet pan with some parchment because inevitably when the cheese melts, it might melt over and it'll just save me a lot of cleanup having parchment paper there to catch the melted cheese rather than like the pan. Sometimes if I have leftover potato, I just put it in front of my children and they eat the rest. And now for the fun part. We're just going to load each one with some cheese. I'm going to put my oven on broil. If you don't have a broil function, that's okay. Again, that highest setting will do the trick. Part of the goal here is to get this cheese like melted and golden. Ready to go. Go. We're just going to give them a few minutes to get melty. Oh yeah, we're ready to go. Okay, so you can see why these are a family favorite. There's nothing quite like crispy potato skin and cheese, and we've just added in some actual vegetables because, you should. So there you have it, our cheesy chimmy stuffed potatoes. I am salivating at the moment, so it's hard for me to describe these potatoes, but they're everything you want. Crispy skin, gooey cheese, loaded with vegetables, and they took like 5 minutes, give or take an hour. If you enjoyed this 5-ingredient recipe, be sure to like this video and subscribe to see all of our future cooking videos. Do yourself a favor. For the full recipe and a textable shopping list, click the link below. Thank you so much for watching and cook happy.